All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Webinar Wednesdays. I'm really pumped to talk about this. How to get your first TED Talk. So we're going to talk about a lot today. We're going to have pretty much like a 20-minute conversation about how to do this. I'm going to try and maybe do a TED version of trying to get a TED Talk, right? So try to keep it under 20 minutes or less, or 15 to 20 minutes. But I just wanted to really address one of the biggest concerns that people have when they're trying to kick off their speaker career is how to get a TED Talk, right? How to be featured on this iconic stage that has really taken over the world over the past 2 decades. I remember when the first time, the concept of the TED Talk was like spreading around. If you got to be on a TED stage, it was such a huge deal. And to this day, it still is, right? It's kind of like getting into the Ivy Leagues. Back then, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, an Ivy League degree was such a coveted degree. Granted, times has changed, but it's still something that resonates with people when people hear that you have a certain type of check in your career book for accomplishment. So the TED Talk is still very powerful, and I will talk about why later on in today's session. All right. So if you're still dreaming about giving a TED Talk, this conversation is for you. I'm going to share with you a step-by-step process to securing your first TEDx speaking opportunity. And for those of you who don't even think it's possible, I will share with you the simplicity around the process, the opportunity, and also decipher whether or not it's really a good opportunity for you to take on anyway, right? Especially when it comes to you thinking about your career, being a public speaker, and just the journey of public speaking in general. All right. So without further ado, just to kick off, I want to introduce myself. My name is Christine and Tim. I'm a serial entrepreneur, tech ecosystem builder. I also am well known for being a personal brand strategist. I'm a mother, I'm a wife. I've launched and managed 5 revenue generating companies. I've been featured in many different media outlets for the work that I do. But one of the biggest things that people first see about me when they Google me or see the work that I do is that I'm a global speaker. I speak at a lot of different programs. And one of the opportunities I've got to had in my career as a global speaker over the past decade was doing a TED Talk. So we're going to talk about that today, how you could be able to get on that red stage, that red iconic circle, and be able to give your first TED Talk if it's in the works for you. Now, first and foremost, just to take a step back, public speaking, being a public speaker, I think it's something that many of you are aware. Public speaking is not easy to do. It's one of the top fears that people have. If you ask and survey people in general, it's actually really difficult, right? For a lot of people, just get in stage, get in front of people, and give a thought process or give any type of content, right? But it's still a very powerful way to share a message, empower people, really galvanize people towards a cause, and share, in the words of TED, an idea worth sharing, right? And so that is the whole purpose of the platform. And if you have something, again, worth sharing, not just because you want to have a career notch and be able to say that it's one of the accolades that you have in your checklist, but sincerely have something of value to share with the world that could either shift minds, shift perspective, really radiate in the universe in a way that really makes an impact. This is a powerful opportunity to share that message, right? And so that's the original premise of the TED Talk. Now, with that said, my first TEDx Talk happened close to 10 years ago. That's a long time. And many of you are like, oh, Christine, you look so young. I've been in the circuit for a long time. All right. So I did my first TEDx Talk. I'll talk more about it later on. But my first TEDx Talk happened in Dubai. And at the time, I was just kicking off in the tech space as an entrepreneur. I was doing really well. I was very successful. And a lot of people don't really know the backstory of how I got my first TED Talk. So this is probably the first time that I'm actually sharing this publicly. But the invitation to do a TED Talk came through an email and then a phone call. And it was through my network. At the time, I was living in Dubai. I was studying. I was working there. I was, running tech entrepreneurial events in the country. I also was launching my first tech company. I was doing, like I said, very, very well. And people have seen me on stage. People have seen me really galvanize audiences towards social entrepreneurship, try to influence women and to really get into the tech space. It was a great time. And someone reached out and said, Christine, I think that you have something worth sharing in terms of your journey, how you built your company. We don't know what topic you will have, but we're here for you. We want you to take this opportunity to really share something worth sharing. Are you available? And at the time, funny enough, I was actually not in Dubai when I received that email. I actually, flew back to my hometown of New York City, and I was at home, and it was actually around the time of Thanksgiving. Okay. And I take Thanksgiving very, very seriously. I'm a big cook. People in my family know I love to cook and I love to have family together. And so it was around Thanksgiving when I received the notice, I think within the same month. And luckily, the way it was planned out, I'll be able to fly out to make it back for Thanksgiving. But it was definitely going to be a situation where I was just flying in to do the TED Talk and fly back out. So crazy, right? And then I didn't have too much time to really prepare. And usually when it comes to the TED Talk, I'll talk about this later, they reach out like weeks, months in advance to see if you're really available to really coordinate the entire roster for a TEDx event. But for me in particularly, like, they just reached out and said like, hey, are you available? And at the time, like I said, it was around Thanksgiving. So it wasn't something that I had on my radar for the year at all. So it really came as a surprise. But funny enough, on my plane ride back to Dubai, back to my, my home turf where I've been for like close to 4 or 5 years, I pretty much was just thinking through all the different ideas, and it just came to me on the plane, like what I really want to talk about, especially considering where my career was at that turning point in my life. And I came up with the concept of the pattern of small moves. And the point and message I was getting across with this talk, and I'll put the link on the chat for you to be able to see, it's a really brief 10-minute TED Talk, was really helping people really navigate their careers, really look and assess their lives and see their true calling by looking not at their passions, but at their patterns. And it was something that for me at the time, I was such in flow with my career. It looked like everything I touched was just going well, right? Everything I was pursuing, everything I was going for, like God was truly blessing me in those years. And I realized that one of the secret sauce, aside from being blessed and aside from being lucky, aside from having a community, aside from having support, aside from putting the work, putting the time, putting the effort, all of that, ingredient pool of activation coming together, I also recognized something that really helped me tap into multiple opportunities. And that was really looking at my past, looking at my patterns, looking at where my true strengths lie and going for it. So I wanted to share that thought leadership with the world at the time. And so Pattern of Small Moves was born literally on a plane ride to Dubai. And I remember when I got into the airport, I literally was just like having a conversation with myself of this talk. I didn't memorize. Many of you know when I do speaker trainings, I don't do memorization. I do practice, but I don't do memorization. I really just having a calm times, like, what do I want to say to my younger self? What do I want to say to people who are at crossroads in their lives and trying to figure out what their tipping point is, where they need to navigate in their careers and their journeys? What do I want to say? And there was a moment where it clicked, where I knew what conversation I wanted to have, and I was ready to go. So the next day, when we had the TED Talk, went on stage, presented it to a live audience, and the rest was history. That was literally my journey into my first TED Talk. And I look back on it and I just still can't believe how this actually happened, because it wasn't something I applied for. It wasn't something I, was looking for at the time, because again, I was just kicking off my career in the tech space. But in hindsight, it was immensely beneficial to my career. It was definitely a really great opportunity for me to share a message that I know resonated not only with the audience that was in the room, but many people come back to me to this day and say like, hey, I watched your TED Talk. That was really motivating. I, went back and I leveraged the insight that you said in the TED Talk and I did it. Right. And so these are things that, you'll talk to many people, and I definitely challenge you to reach out to people who've done TED Talks before. Don't just watch the talk in action on YouTube, but actually talk to the people, reach out to them via DM, LinkedIn, Instagram, and say, hey, just want to get a feel how was your experience? How did you get on the TED stage? What motivated you to bring this talk to life? And you'll find that the stories and journeys that people took to be on that stage is quite incredible, depending on who you speak to. So definitely welcome you to experience that and engage with someone today about their journey on getting on the red dot stage. Okay. So with that said, after that TED Talk, obviously, prior to that, I've already had quit my job in banking, moved to Dubai, was working on my startup as shared before, and was doing very well. My speaker career had already kicked off before the TED Talk. And that's something that a lot of people think that this is going to be the tipping point you need to kick off your career. No, usually what I find is people are already in the thick of it, like in the industry, out there doing their thing. People are recognizing it, and that's how they get into the circles to be nominated for a TED Talk. So I was already in the circuits, putting out the messages of wisdom, opportunity, growth, anything that was in my career that I wanted to share, I was sharing with the world at the time prior to the TED Talk. Obviously, I was featured in the media a lot for the work that I was doing. I was meeting celebrities. I was working with billionaires. As I said, during that time, it was like I was everywhere, right? I was really getting the message out there, not only for my company, my tech company at the time, but also really trying to inspire more women to get into the tech space, really navigate this career that really kind of like happened almost as if by accident. But I don't believe in access. I do believe that things happen in life on purpose to either teach you or grow you or change you for the better. But it was really a phenomenal time. And so after the TED Talk, I always tell people that my journey into doing my TED Talk didn't stop there. I continued to really navigate, continue to engage with people after that. And my career is one of those things, like when people heard I've done a TED Talk, it just changes the conversation in terms of like speaking engagements, in terms of partnerships, in the speaking arena. Like it just really changed the game. And I continue, like I said, doing more and more talks and relationships. So with that said, how do you get access to the stage? How do you become a speaker? I kind of feel like, from my experience and for those who've been on TED Talks, who've been in this experience before, there's 3 direct ways to become a speaker on a TEDx stage. One, usually you have to leverage a local relationship. Like I stated before, I was already in Dubai, already making waves, well known within the community for the work that I do. So I got someone emailed me, outreached me, called me, and multiple people within that group reached out and said like, hey, I think you should do a TED Talk, right? So it was local relationships that I've been building over the course of multiple years that recognize the work that I do, and not just the achievements that I accomplished, but the value in those accomplishments to inspire and really motivate others into action. So that was a local relationship. Another reason why people could usually reach out is like maybe you're an industry expert and you're really unique and people are tracking you on the internet and say like, hey, like, look, and just cold outreach to you and say like, hey, the topic that we're discussing, let's say AI, or artificial intelligence, or diversity, or something that's really unique in today's space, and they feel like you are the right person to have the conversation at a TED Talk, the topic relationship is such a perfect fit. They'll reach out to you. And the last but not least, referrals, right? People nominate and recommend people into this space. And so without you just doing the work yourself, someone might even refer and nominate your name, and then you get a message in the box, right? So these are the multiple ways that you could do it. Obviously, things have changed over the past couple of years since my time on the TEDx stage, and I'll share that with you today. But today, the 2 main options for you to become a speaker on TEDx is either one, you nominate yourself or someone nominates you as a speaker to speak. I tend to feel like this goes into a black hole because so many people want to get on TEDx that this inbox actually gets flooded, right? Obviously, you still could go through the process, put your name in the hat. Someone can nominate you as well. But I actually believe more so in the second option, which is really working with event organizers who are licensed to host TEDx events, simply because they know the local community a lot more. They know the people who are making waves within the community. And they also are empowered people with the local conversations to go global as well. Sometimes you don't have to be changing the world to have something worth sharing for the world, if that makes sense, right? And what I love is like, if you go on TEDx.com, if you go to TEDx events, you can literally find the upcoming events that are coming up and reach out directly to the organizer and say like, hey, I noticed that you have a TEDx event a couple months from now. I live in that city, or I'm an expert in this topic theme that you're promoting for that event. Let's chat. Let's see if it's a great fit. What materials or information do you need for us to move this conversation forward? And then you take it from there. So that's you building a direct relationship with the TEDx curator of that region. And I always tell people, target either the city where you're from, the city that you live in, or the theme that associated with the work that you do. Because again, there has to be some type of relationship between you and either the topic or the location for them to make sense and want to have you on that specific stage, right? It can't be like, oh, I just have an idea and I just want to talk. No, it has to have some type of connection. This is a great way to get on the stage in that way. So with that said, once you're able to get an opportunity, I always tell people reach out to multiple. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. So for example, for me, maybe I might reach out to the TEDx organizer in New York, in Dubai, in London, maybe in Africa, some city in Africa like Ghana, where I've where I really have a lot of affiliations to, maybe one in Haiti, because there's already a direct link, right? So with that said, once you get booked and you're, approved to be able to come on stage, then it's the preparation. And I always tell people you have to have that signature talk, send the PowerPoint and script, practice, execute, and share that video once it goes live. Because the first couple minutes, the first hour of that, publishing, we all know the algorithm says, well, the more you share it, the more engagements you get, the more it gets spread, right? So being ready to do that. I've seen people do launch days with their videos. I've seen people invite their whole families, their whole networks through email blasts. You do what's best to get the word out there, because again, if it's an idea worth sharing, people will keep sharing it. Okay. So once you prepare, one thing I will say that I always challenge people to reach out to the TEDx curator. Usually they have toolkits to help you prepare, like scripts, memo templates that TEDx also gives them, because they are protocols and requirements for you to do a TED Talk, like the time limit, the structure. So, they'll be able to give you that kind of speaker toolkit for you to be able to prepare for your TED Talk. And I also say, get some inspiration, go on YouTube and look at the TEDx page and look at previous videos, right? See what people have said, see how people have done it, and pick 2 or 3 speakers that resonate with you, maybe their style, maybe their cadence, maybe their, topic, and see how you could contribute to the conversation in your own unique way. There's so many different ways to prepare once selected. And these are 2 great ways to do that, right? And of course, for me, I always said, look, once you get your topic, what's your breakthrough message, right? There has to be some real breakthrough message that you start and end with. And maybe you have 3 to 5 points in the middle, like the sandwich of the talk that reinforces or brings credibility to that breakthrough message. Sketch out that script, create the presentation, practice it. And I always tell people, if you have 10 minutes, try to do it in 8 minutes. If you have 15 minutes, try to do it in 12 minutes, because you just never know what will happen on stage, where you might get caught up, you might get sidetracked, you might take too long, you might go too mellowed out, and it gives you room to express yourself because you practice it under the time limit, so you don't go over, right? And one big red flag, I've seen people do this before, and it's so disgusting. Please don't do this. No promotion in your talk. Do not promote anything. Don't sell anything. Again, the whole purpose is because you're trying to leave an impact. You're trying to provide value. You're not trying to sell something. Okay. So please, 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 please do not do that. No promotion in your talk. The most important thing is not only the content, the impact of the message that you're trying to deliver, and the delivery itself, because you could have a great message, but if you don't know how to express it properly, like you're stuttering, you're freaking out, you're panicking, you're speed rushing, you're just boring, right? It just takes away from the credibility of your message. So please make sure the content and delivery is the most important part, not promoting yourself, promoting any type of program or initiative that you're doing. Keep it simple, keep it direct to message only. Okay. Now, I want to conclude with some top questions that I've received over the years about TEDx and just getting on the stage that I want to share with you. And one of the, unfortunately, most common questions I get is is it a pay to play model? No, you should not be paying to speak on stage. It is not like that. It is there are bureaucratic communities that really do the most with the curating of the speakers. And I've heard some real crazy scenarios about that, but realistically, it is a meritocracy. If you have an idea of what's right and they look at what your work is and look at your proposal, it makes sense, they move forward. That's all it is. You do not pay to play, right? Some people have asked me, does it really help your career? Look, one thing I will say is I wouldn't, bet your whole life on a TED Talk transforming your career. However, it won't hurt it, right? TED Talks on your career is really definitely a credibility marker on your resume as a public speaker that you've done a TED Talk, because there is a curation process to be able to be on that stage, right? So definitely look at it don't take it as your end all be all, but it is a great plus. Another question I get, do you immediately go viral? No, it depends, right? And I've seen TED Talks 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later go viral, right? And in the beginning, it didn't. It just depends on the content and whether it's relevant for that time, whether it resonates with a certain audience. You just never know. Hopefully, you're not doing it to go viral. You're doing it again because you do want to have a message that you want to give. Because again, you want to give something, an idea worth sharing, not because you just want to toot your horn and go viral. Please dismiss that from your repertoire. The other question I usually get is, should I only aim for one annual conference for the annual conference and not even look at the local TEDx event? I would not do that because the main TEDx conference, that was a very competitive process. And one thing I will say is like they tend to curate that months in advance. I still believe in the power of the local TEDx communities because you're already there, right? You already know the community. You're already a shining example of leadership if you're doing the work that you do with stride and with oomph. Definitely don't sleep on it. Target and reach out to the curator. The only downside is probably a no. It won't hurt you. Just go for it. Another question I get asked, can you do multiple TED Talks? Yes, you can. I would advise not to be that person that's doing 20 TED Talks because you figured out a way to talk to different curators to get on stage. I don't see that as a powerful thing when I see people doing multiple TED Talks. I think 1, 2, maybe max 3 might work in your career journey. But again, it's not about accumulating a bunch of TED Talks. It's about whether or not you're able to provide value when you get on that stage. There's plenty of other opportunities to speak on stage as a public speaker. I'm a public speaker. I've spoken on multiple stages at the UN, at the European Union, at corporate institutions, at global tech conferences. I've been across multiple stages. Like, again, it's not that serious for you to try to get into 5 TED Talks. Again, take a step back. Why do you want to do it? What value do you want to provide? That's all that matters. You can do multiple, but don't do that person where you're just trying to do 10. Okay. Can you be a curator of speakers for TED? Yes, you can. There's a process on their website. They have the entire protocol process for applying to being a TEDx curator. You could go through that process. I'm not going to speak to that on today's session because I'm mainly helping people find out how to be TEDx speakers, but there is a process for that for sure. Okay. And that's about it. And as stated before, your journey as a public speaker does not stop at TEDx, right? I've continued to speak at multiple conferences. Like I said, I've spoken at the UN. I've spoken at so many different arenas. And one thing I say that, with each speaking engagement, whether it's a TED Talk or another one, I have been able to grow my audience. I've been able to grow my credibility. I've been able to provide more value in different ways through brand partnerships and offers and opportunities. And I continue to share that journey on social media, particularly on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, the power of this one page has given me so many different opportunities in my career, and the visibility of my opportunities on stage, public speaking, has really accelerated that growth in my career for sure. And so, like I said, don't stop at TEDx. Keep speaking at more events. Keep sharing your thought leadership. Keep, providing value to different audiences. Experiment with different audiences. Like I said, I speak in front of small audiences, big ones. On a regular basis, I speak in front of thousands, right? Don't get caught up if this is something that, a lot of times people who want to get on a TED stage are people who are formally trying to become public speakers, right? In some shape or capacity. So again, keep experimenting, keep growing, keep sharing your knowledge, and keep making an impact, because I could tell you from experience, moving the energy of a room filled with thousands of people is not an easy thing to do. But when you do it, in your soul that you have done something truly incredible. And the people in that room, I will tell you to this day, out of all the projects and work and businesses that I've launched, I've had businesses and work that I've done that's been truly impactful for sure, right? Yeah, if you think about the work that I do at Haiti Tech Summit, to this day, people still come up to me emotionally crying about the experience that I curated in Haiti every single year. But speaking on public stages, giving an idea, giving a concept, giving an inspiration. To this day, I have speaking engagements that I've done 15 years ago, 16, 17, 14 years ago. that people walk up to me, stop me at a conference, stop me at an event, stop me on the street with my kids and say, hey, you're Christine. I'm like, yes. Like, I remember your talk. Like, I don't know how to describe how crazy that feels to know that something that you said over a decade ago still resonates with someone, still motivated someone, still did something for someone in their lives. That's crazy. And if you're going on this journey of being a public speaker, and if you're going on this journey of being able to provide thought leadership through this medium, take it seriously. Take it with crazy humility, because I've seen public speakers just be just like, excuse my French, but assholes, right? Don't be that person, right? Do it with humility, do it with cause, do it with purpose, right? And you will find that people will really remember you for you putting your best foot forward, not because you just want to get on stage, but because if this is the medium for you to give your gifts, you took it upon yourself to have that courage to get there and give it your all. So I wish you all the very best on your journey to becoming public speakers. Get on this TED stage. And if you want more opportunities to learn about how to be a public speaker, check me out on the Speaker Career Launch Accelerator program. I love sharing thought leadership on how to do this every day. But again, I can't wait to hear from you guys in the future. Definitely drop me a note, comment on this feed if you are venturing forward to doing your first TED Talk. I would love to be of service. And thank you so much, everyone. It's always a pleasure helping you on your journey in the digital space. Bye, guys.